The word transgender itself, even, like, people weren't familiar with it. People had heard of transvestite, maybe transsexual, but it was like, what even is this word? And it's kind of gets stuck onto the LGBT thing, right? I remember when I was in university, it was just like LGB, and then it became LGBT, and then it became LGBTQ, and then it became I think now it's LGBTQIA 2SP plus or something like that, right? They just kind of keep adding a letter, adding a letter every year. And I think initially there's the just naivety and ignorance where people are like, well, I don't really know what to make of this. I don't know what's going on. And then it gets pushed very, very aggressively, and it hijacks and weaponizes people's compassion to kind of either to get them on the bandwagon or to make them sympathetic towards it. And then they never know when to stop, right? So then they start pushing it to the point of like, oh no, this is not about tolerance. This is about domination. This is about changing laws. This is about changing policies. This is about invading people's space in various ways and trying to control the way they speak. And I think that's when the alarm bells start to go off for people. And then it really, I'll tell you, the line that they massively crossed is when they started pushing stuff on kids. There are certain defining lines in society that are very important. And I would say that this ideology over the past 10 years has violated two of the biggest ones. I think one of the most important divisions that exists in humanity, when I say division, I don't mean like, I don't mean that in a negative way. Distinction maybe is a better word. I think one of the most important ones is male and female. Like, that's a big deal. Like, it's very important to our species and the whole animal kingdom that we recognize the distinction.
Plant kingdom as well. You know, it's in undeniable.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very important that we recognize that distinction. And another one is adults and children. Very important. Culturally, socially, legally, it's extraordinarily important that we have a distinction between an adult and a child. And it's why in every legal system all around the world, they have certain laws that are based on whether someone is an adult or someone is a child. And I think where they really overshot the mark is, obviously they'd violated the one between male and female already, sometimes to a dangerous level, very obvious with sports or men and women's prisons, that type of thing, like very obvious what the problem is there. But then I think once you start to violate that line between adults and children, so even people who are like, say if you even took someone who's extremely like liberal or libertarian on this whole issue, they might be like, well, you know, I guess whether they like it or not, they kind of, you know, think, well, if you're an adult within reason, if you're not hurting anyone else, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Like a lot of people in the West hold that position. Even a lot of conservatives would hold that position. But that doesn't, but you draw the line at children, right? You're like, no, not kids, right? Like, no, like if you're an adult, you can generally do whatever you want. If you're a child, no. And this goes for even simple things like getting a tattoo, right? Getting a tattoo is nowhere near as serious as going through like a gender conversion and like taking bits off of yourself or going on hormone therapy or something. Like getting a tattoo is way less serious than that. And we would think it would be crazy to a 10-year-old who wants to get a tattoo. And we're like, yeah, go ahead, tattoo them. We'd be like, no, you can't do that. You can't drive a car. You can't drink alcohol. You can't be smoking cigarettes. You can't be like engaging in certain activities. It's like, no, that's a child. Leave kids out of it. And they crossed that line. And I think that woke a lot of people up, even just the sort of average person who's not all that interested in all of this stuff and considers themselves quite apolitical and they're not into the culture war and all this stuff. They're like, no, this is not right. And they did it with more than just the gender issue. You know, it happened with some of the conversations about race, for example, which is quite a tiresome subject because, you know, we kind of should be past all of it. But when you're going around and you're telling, say, for example, you're telling white children, again, they violated the thing with children. You're telling white children that they're somehow guilty of racist, that they're inherently racist, or that they're guilty of slavery in the past or colonization, and they're somehow responsible for this, or that they're overprivileged over their black friends and their brown friends and classmates, and you're then telling the black kids that, oh yeah, you're the victim of institutional and structural and systemic racism, and you live in a white supremacist society that is designed to hold you down. Like, imagine telling a child this.